Hey everyone, it's 10 Types, and today I'm going to be talking about a bunch of new cards from, I believe, the set Shrouded Fable. These are from the Japanese set Night Wanderer, but Shrouded Fable is the new international set. In English, it says English set, but I think it's international. Although I imagine most of my audience is English speaking, because I am. But anyways, let's hop right into things. Shrouded Fable will be a mini set releasing after, well, in August here. Obviously, Twilight Masquerade, for those of you who don't know, I guess, it's releasing tomorrow, today. Depends when you're watching this, depends when I upload this. But it's coming really soon. It's really cool. And it's a main set. And then this set, Shrouded Fable, is a mini set. Cool looking pack cards, I guess. They have Pekaron and Loyal 3 here. And those three, or those four, I guess, are all Darkness EXs I covered in a previous video, and then I covered some of the other cards from the set. And I do have a big board of the set down below in the description. It has Twilight Masquerade, and then it also has Night Wanderer for both Standard and GLC, although I'm pretty much going to be talking about Standard in today's video. As you see here, has the four EXs, and I think we saw them, but oh, and then we see this King Gambit art. Pretty cool, I guess. It's not my favorite, but pretty cool, which is not a new card. And we see these illustration rares for the Loyal 3. I don't know if we've seen these before. Also, these videos, sorry, these cards I revealed in a video separately, which are pretty cool. And that's all good. And then we see a Greninja EX. This is the older Greninja EX. I think there's only two. It's the water one. It's not very good, but it is a card. It's getting a cool looking art. And then also, and this Greninja actually could play with the other one, so it's not complete garbage. But then we also have a new Pekaron. This is actually a new card, and it's a really interesting Pokemon. 80 HP basic, one retreat, not the best stats, but its attack Poison Chain, Darkness, Colorless, 10. The active is now poisoned, and it can't retreat during your next turn. So this is a damaging based attack, but a slower, like, paced damaging based attack where you want to obviously poison your opponent's active and then kind of get them trapped there and damage them over time. There are ways to boost this, but specifically Toxic Subjugation here, your ability, as long as this Pokemon is in the active spot, put 5 damage counters more than you normally would on your opponent's poison Pokemon during Pokemon Checkup. And this can stack with Radiant Hisuian, Sneasler, and stadium that I honestly forget the name of. Dangerous Jungle, maybe. That could be wrong, though. The stadium that boosts poison damage to non-darkness Pokemon. And so you can just boost damage a lot. So then you can potentially be doing 100 poison damage every turn, which is just insane. But of course, this is it. Like, you're not really doing any extra damage. You're doing poison chain, stopping him from retreating. Just doing 10 damage just isn't a lot. This guy's kind of fun. I don't think it's very good, but it's a card. Next, we got an Ace spec. This was revealed like a week ago, I think. So I wanted to get it out earlier, but there weren't all many new reveals. There were only a few, so I waited till we got some more. And trust me, it was worth the wait. But because we got some really crazy cards, not good crazy or bad crazy, but crazy, including this Pokevital A spec. This is essentially a direct, or it's realistically a direct buff of Gold Potion. It works a little differently, but and Gold Potion was an older A spec, but this is an item. Heal 150 from one of your Pokemon. And then if it's in the discard pile, though, it can't be put back into your hand or deck. Essentially, it can't be recovered. It can be moved to the lost zone and expanded, I guess. I don't think there's a way to do that in standard. And then I don't know. I don't know if this can really be used or like recovered and expanded, like with something letting you use it from your discard, but I don't think so. Anyways, it doesn't really matter. All that matters is that this is 150 healing, which is okay, but I mean, it's very good. There are times when this is good. We saw the card Hyper Potion, which just rotated, but that saw some play. That was an interesting card, but I don't think this ace spec is very good compared to the other ones, which are either consistency boosts or disruption, but mostly consistency boosts or really high value with like Legacy Energy. That's just super good. Or even the other one, New Upper Energy, is pretty good in certain decks. It's not like broken, but it has value that is pretty obvious and pretty good. Versus Pokevital A, this can put you out of range of getting like two-shotted, I guess. The top comment says it can get you from 2 shots to 3 shots, which is like true here. And I am looking on PokeBeach, by the way, so you can check out PokeBeach. These are all pretty much different articles, though. So this is okay. It can't actually be used with Pokestop because it'll get discarded, and then it will try to get put back into your hand, but it can't. So that's a bit of a bummer for this card, but I think this is all right, I guess. I don't know. I don't know you'd play this in, to be honest. It does help against like Charizard EX, I guess, and like Dragapult EX maybe, but it's not that good. I think this is probably one of the weaker ace specs we've seen. I don't think it's complete trash, and I would not be surprised if it saw some play, but compared to a lot of the other ace specs, I think it's pretty underwhelming because it just doesn't have. I don't know. It just doesn't have high value for setup. It doesn't have any setup value, and there's like the Hero's Cape, which can be recovered, the Hero's Cape card, which is nice. It can be lost vacuum, but it's still really nice. And there's also Survival Cast. I think both of those are tools that give you essentially more survivability, which I think are better. There are times when this is better, but I don't know. I'm just not a big fan of this, and it's not really versatile at all. So, I don't think it's a completely terrible card. Obviously, it's an ace spec, and all ace specs have like value, but it's not great. Doesn't have that high upside that a lot of the other ones do, and has like a lower downside of just not being useful in certain matchups, like against Chimpow EX, which is essentially just one-shotting you every turn. This is completely useless. But let's move on to the next evolution line, the next set of cards, which is going to be the Decidueye evolution line. Rally here isn't very good, but whatever. It's not that bad, but it's just whatever. Then we have Dartrix, which has United Wings. What? United Wings is an attack. I believe you saw in Paldea Evolved, but yeah, I think that's the set. And it says United Wings for one colorless. The attack costs are different on the different Pokemon, but here it's one colorless, and it does 20 damage for each Pokemon in your discard that has United Wings attack. So that is the same as Mad Party essentially. Um, I mean Mad Party's for Mad Party, and the same as Night March, and those are pretty good. Not amazing. Night March was pretty good, but Mad Party was all right. United Wings has been okay so far, but it just doesn't hit enough damage. There are currently three United Wings attackers in Standard. There is the Murkrow, which is for one darkness. There is the Wattrel, which is for two colorless. And there's the Flamigo, which is colorless and is also for two colorless, which has like value, I guess. I mean, you obviously need to play all of them. Nitrix is one that you can attack with. You can use Rowlet. It has low HP, but not horribly low. Kind of like the other ones, which is like low, but it's not as low as in terms of HP as the Mad Party or Night March, which had absurdly low HP, which was just like get like knocked out by literally anything. So Dartrix, 90, whatever. There is no level ball, but if there was, and if it comes back, which is not shocking, it could be nice. Although level ball does not search Flamigo. And then um, the one colorless is pretty nice. You can use this obviously you can attack with it from any type. And it's a pretty decent weakness, but it's trailing it behind a little bit. Charizard DX obviously really good right now, but I think it's going to fall off a noticeable amount. With the next set, Dragapult EX will kind of come in and kind of take its place as just a really good, powerful Stage 2 deck. And Dartrix does not have weakness on Dragapult because nothing does. It doesn't have a weakness. And so I think Dartrix will be all right potentially, but if it came out a set sooner, it'd be really good. And it hasn't. That being said, obviously it's a buff to the United Wings deck, and people will play this. I might play it. I'm not a big fan of the deck. I think it's like it's fine. It's not the most fun deck in my opinion. It's a little linear. I don't hate it. I think it's a cool and expanded. I like Mad Party and expanded, but anyways, it's fine. Grass weakness obviously against Charizard DX and the Roaring Moons, so that's fine. I don't know if it really hits anything else, but those are pretty good. So it's all right. Obviously, being an evolution makes it more awkward, but well, more awkward to get into play, but you'll never start it, which could be nice. It has some benefits, so I think it's a pretty. I mean, it's obviously a really good addition to the deck because you can just do 80 more damage because you can max out at. I guess you could have 16 in the discard, so you can be hitting 320, which is actually not enough to one-shot Charizard, but whatever. It is enough, I believe, to one-shot Dragapult, and of course, hitting 320, it's good. It's essentially impossible. You'll have prizing. This can get prized. You can't get it with this you in Heavy Ball, so that's annoying. And you need to copy Ditto, which is rotating soon as well. But or you need to copy one of your attackers with Ditto. So probably Murkrow, but it's still really cool. We do have a Decidueye here. Featherstock, Delta, you have seven cards in hand. Whatever. 150 HP, also low. 2 retreat cost high for like 150. That just doesn't feel like a great stat line, but whatever. Then you have Strong Shot, 170 for 1 grass. Discard a basic grass energy from your hand. If you can't, it does nothing. But of course, you know what? You one-shot Charizard. You need one in your hand, one obviously in play. You could use Luminous Energy, but you need basic grass to discard. I actually think this card's all right because it one-shots Charizard, but it's not that good. You could honestly tech it into. No, you can't really tech this into United Wings because of the awkward attack cost. But I think this Decidueye is still pretty all right. Not great, but not terrible. We have we have a Decidueye format, which is Decidueye EX. There's some cool different Decidueyes. I think Decidueye is a really cool Pokemon. It's one of my favorites. If you knew anything about me in terms of competitive Pokemon, I play almost no competitive Pokemon. But in the one like major tournament I played in, I played Decidueye and it did really well. It was an online tournament, but it was a pretty big one. And yeah, I really loved Decidueye. It completely carried me through the tournament. I played all right, but it just it was I got kind of lucky, but so I like Decidueye. But Decidueye obviously it's not insane because I mean damage output it's pretty good though. 170 for one's pretty good, just as a flat out number, but it's not always enough to keep up with. It's not one-shotting anything really. It's one-shotting or it's not one-shotting multi-prizes really, except for Lumineon V's Walkability EX and let's see those and weak ones, but it's weak ones weak to you, but it's still pretty good. Also, sorry if I'm kind of my thoughts are kind of scattered. I just woke up and I saw the last cards. I was really sick. But yeah, and then we got ourselves. So Decidueye, I think, like, all right, but not that good. Then we got Slitherwing, Iron Moth. These cards, quite frankly, aren't super good, but they're all right. We got Slitherwing, an ancient Pokemon for fighting colorless. You can do 20, but Iron Buster, it does, unsurprisingly, targets Pokemon with Iron in the name, the future Pokemon. Well, it targets Miraidon too, but, and it will do 140, there we go, 140 to those Pokemon, which is enough to one-shot Iron Hands EX and Iron Thorns EX without HP buffs, or I guess even with certain HP buffs. And this is really nice because it allows you to just one-shot them, and they're pretty good, and they are obviously fighting weak because you need that to one-shot them. But this is pretty solid. Obviously, it's not good in most scenarios, but it is good in a few. You could put this in Lost Zone, honestly. I don't hate that. You probably don't need it, but you could do it. And then you could also put this in. I know you can put this into certain decks. It's all right. You can put this into Ancient Box decks. You can put this into. You can put it really wherever, because it's not super awkward to power up. But you do need to have some energy acceleration, at least a little bit. But most decks play some, and so it's all right. I don't think it'll see too much play, but it is an option, especially if your deck is really bad against Iron Hands EX or Iron Thorn EX. Although as an Iron Thorn EX counter, it's kind of weird. Iron Thorn EX counters your engine, most likely, probably Pidgeot EX. So it's kind of like, do you set up? You don't just need a few energies on this guy. It's a basic, but it is still awkward. Also, we'll be getting one-shotted by Iron Thorns EX, probably by one Iron Hands EX with for 2 prizes, but maybe not. But almost definitely by Iron Thorns EX unless they have double turbo. So some kind of weird math going on here, but overall, I think Slitherwing is going to be, it's okay. And then Iron Moth here, the main attack is going to be Wild Rejector, which does 120 for Fire Colorless. During your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by your opponent's ancient Pokemon. This is okay, but not very good. Obviously, walling Ancient, this will auto win against the Ancient Box deck with the Roaring Moon, single prize Roaring Moon with the single prize Koraidon, the Ancient ones. There might only be one single prize Koraidon. I don't remember, but you know what deck I'm talking about. The Ancient Box deck sometimes plays Flutter Mane, sometimes plays a few different things, but this will wall against literally all their attackers. But the one ancient Pokemon that doesn't wall is Roaring Moon EX, kind of because they can just instantly knock you out. That's not too bad forcing them to do that big attack on a single prizer, but it doesn't feel great because you aren't actually walling them, so it's not like an auto win against the Roaring Moon EX deck with both Roaring Moons, probably with the Dunsparce, and that deck is pretty popular. It's not super popular, but I do think it is better than this single prize Ancient Box deck. So I don't think this card's terrible. Again, I think it's worse though. Also, the attack cost is super awkward. Fire Colorless. Certainly, if you are a fire deck, it's not that awkward, but you could put this in Charizard EX. You could put this in potentially Dragapult, but probably not. And you could put this in Dragapult EX, sorry. And you could put this in, of course, Armarouge Box. And that's honestly a pretty fun deck that I've been playing some. But I do think Iron Moth, it's it's all right, but not that good. But these cards are interesting counters to keep in mind, and potentially if we see more Ancient Future support, which this does signal that we are getting more Ancient Future Pokemon cards, not new Pokemon. So I think we might see more support, but I was hoping for an energy. If we see an energy though to support them, it could be really nice. Next up, we got Xerosic Plant and Malamar. Um, Malamar here says switch in one of your opponent's bench Pokemon to the active spot. This does 120 damage to the new active, but only if you played Zero-Six Plan. And Zero-Six Plan is a supporter that it does something. We'll talk about that in a moment. It will have value in specifically control decks, but in terms of being a draw supporter, it doesn't do that. It doesn't really have any synergy with Malamar either, other than you have to play it. So 120 Gust is like really nice, but or essentially 120 Snipe. It's a Gust, but you're probably knocking him out. And this does not like boss trap barrel because, or really any bench support because you're gonna gust it up, and then you're gonna knock it out. So but it's nice to really mess with your point setup. It's really good turn one, or sorry, turn two going first, and potentially later, but mostly turn one, no sorry, turn two if you go first before your opponent's able to evolve. I think it's pretty solid, but outside of that, it's pretty bad. I mean, it's not terrible, but you're wasting your supporter every single turn, and it is a supporter with some value, but not really any synergy. You're not drawing cards, so this card just doesn't seem, unfortunately, very good. Kind of funny, but not super strong. And then we got ourselves Zero-Six Plan. This card is actually not that good, but but it's all right, and it's going to be played a bunch. So it's a supporter that says your opponent discards cards from their hand until they only have 3 cards in hand. Of course, they choose the cards from their hand because otherwise that would be super broken. I think this card is not that good. I haven't heard too much talk. I haven't been paying too much attention to the reveals, what people are saying about it, but I think people think this card is really good. It's pretty solid. It's not terrible, but the big thing is realistically, you probably only have 3 cards in your hand that you really need. This is a weird card, one of those cards that um, if you are like playing a deck that you know how to like play and pilot well, most of the time, of course, there are always exceptions. You will be able to just keep your 3 card hand that is like really solid, assuming your hand in the first place was solid. And if you have a bad hand, it doesn't really matter, right? So um, I think this card is not terrible, though. It obviously can counter like really large hands, but there's hand trimmer to do that as well, which is probably better. This card's down to 5, but if your opponent has a 20-card hand because they're just saving enough to Iono, then you probably just want to hand trimmer, and you can save your supporter. And of course, this doesn't force you to discard either, but it's not that good. And of course, then you can go ahead and you can Zero-Six Plan on like a relatively low hand, and then you can Arbok EX. That is a thing. Arbok EX. I think your opponent discards 2 more of their choice, so then they have 1 card in their hand, which is probably like a supporter to just bail them out. But you are really destroying their hand in that scenario, and there are different combos with this. I think it is a decent support or like control card supporter for a control deck. Comparing it to Airy, I actually do think it's better than Airy in control. I don't think Airy is that good in control, but it does have value sometimes. Airy is all right in control, I'd say, but yeah, Zero-Six Plan is it's a pretty all right card. I don't think it's gonna like completely make control that much better, but I think it's pretty solid. Um, I always say like, oh, Pokemon's revealing new control cards, and they are. They still are. But I don't think this is the best one we've seen. But it's pretty solid. I think it's a very clearly, obviously good one. It obviously has some like use cases, a lot of use cases. I would not recommend playing this in non-control decks versus like Airy. You can put in non-control decks, and it's pretty solid. But Zero-Six Plan isn't like you need to add another layer on top of it, a Luxray V and Arbok EX, some other thing that is able to just kind of pile onto your opponent. And so if you pair this with multiple different detrimental effects, I think it's really difficult to deal with. But just on its own, it's not super good. But as I said, a nice addition to control decks. I don't think it'll be like super overwhelmingly strong, but I think it's pretty good. I think it's actually a decently well designed card. Although of course control is very annoying to play against a lot of the time as well. Lastly, though, we got the really interesting cards, which all have I don't remember the names of the different rarities, but they got this thing. Pretty cool looking cards. Art rares maybe. I don't know. So these look cool. I think I like the style. It's not my favorite style ever, but I think it's pretty cool, pretty fun. There we go. So we got 3 Pokemon there. We got Duskull. Doesn't really matter. It's whatever. We got Dusclops and Dusknoir with essentially the same ability, but for a slight evolution, you get more damage, a bunch more damage. So you have Cursed Bomb. Once during your turn, you may put 5 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. if you placed any damage counters in this way, this Pokemon is knocked out. Versus Dusknoir is going to be placing 13 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon, and then it knocks itself out as obviously a stage 2 versus a stage 1. The attacks here are not very good. Not complete like garbage, but they're not obviously not what you're wanting to use the Pokemon for. These abilities are really interesting here. Of course, Cursed Bomb, losing prizes is just not good usually. You can pair this with I want to say someone said unfair stand, which you can do. Um, anyway, some people are like saying this is really good, and some people are saying it's really bad from what I saw. But these cards are really interesting. Obviously, it's a pretty big, and realistically, they're pretty balanced, but kind of weird. Of course, there's some weird stuff going on here with the fact that they are able to snipe as abilities, like a lot of snipe as an ability, but then you're knocking yourself out. So this is interesting. This can be used to donk your opponent. So Dusknoir, or sorry, I'll start with Dusclops. 50 snipe essentially is not that much. It's not knocking out that many Pokemon. It is knocking out Pidgey, I guess. I mean, there's the 50 HP Pidgey, which is currently the one played most, but I'm not sure if that'll stay going forwards. We'll see because there's like Dragapult and stuff, but that will knock out the 60 HP Pidgey as well. But Dusclops here is a pretty cool card because it's able to snipe that, but it's not a ton. It is a stage 1 as well, so you do need to get evolved, but you don't need to rare candy as opposed to the Dusknoir, which does 90 more damage. No, it does 70 more damage. No, what? It's 80. Sorry, as I said, I'm tired. But 80 more damage. And so 80 more or 8 more damage counters. And keep in mind this is damage counters versus damage. Abilities don't do damage essentially ever. I don't think I know of any abilities that actually just do damage. There might be some, but I don't know of any. Mostly it's damage counters in Talion, Iron Valiant EX, and this damage counters. And so it is an effective ability as opposed to just damage. I don't really know if that matters, but this is pretty interesting. 130 snipe is pretty good. You are sniping, but most single prices, right? Not every single pricer, but most, and you do have Hawlucha to place more damage counters as well if you need. You can also move the damage counters around with Radiant Alakazam, assuming you didn't get the knockout, but that's kind of weird. To me, though, I think this is a donk-based deck where you go ahead and you just get a bunch of these in play. You just use like all of them and just win the game on the spot, or you lose because you're giving up prizes every time you do this. Or there's one other option, and that is to take out your opponent's setup before they're going. So if your opponent starts, say, gets like 2 Pidgeys into play, you really want to target their Pidgeys so they don't get Pidgey out. So you go ahead, you snipe the one Pidgey with this, and you knock out the other one with just an attack, and now they're in a really bad spot. Or they are running, they got like 3 Charmanders in play. Obviously, they're running Charizard EX. You go ahead, you go Dusclops, and you go ahead, and you just go ahead and just start knocking out their Pokemon on the bench and just knock out all their Charmers. Also, I need to look at a card. Oh yeah, this is a deck I'm going to be playing as well, probably tomorrow. But I need to look at the card Lost City. I honestly don't remember how this card works 100%. Okay, it is whenever a Pokemon is knocked out, put that Pokemon into the Lost Zone instead of the discard. So there's 2 different things you can do with this. As I said, if your opponent has 3 Charmanders, which might be all their Charmanders, though they probably play 4, but still, you can go ahead and just use this ability and knock out all of their Charmanders and Lost Zone them. And now they just don't have any Charmanders. They may have 1 left, but if you knock out 3, then they're in a really bad spot. Of course, you have lost just a bunch of prizes, but if you lost on all their Charizards or Charmanders, it doesn't really matter if they already have 4 prizes that they've taken because they don't have any attackers the rest of the game. They literally just can't attack ever. So, or they do have attacking options, but they're not the attacking options they want to use. So now they just can't attack, which is really interesting, but awkward for you to set up as well. Keep in mind this is lots and lots of evolutions and potentially rare candies and all this, and this is just really awkward to use, but it is something you can do, and you can just win off of this. And then, of course, you can also go ahead, you can move damage, you can do different things with damage counters. But then, as I said, Lost City will cause you to Lost Zone your own Pokemon as well, powering up a Lost Zone deck, which is really interesting. So you can actually do a pseudo Lost Zone engine with almost exclusively Dusclops and Dusknoirs, in close experiments and maybe some companies Lost Vacuums mixed in there, but this is a big part of it with Lost City, and of course you're lost on your opponent's cards, and just like everything's going into the Lost Zone. Of course, if you lost on this, you can't recover it, but realistically, recovering this is kind of risky because I don't know if I'd say risky, but probably just not needed because you are not able to now go ahead and like use you can't use it more than 6 times. You'll just like or more than 5 times. If you use it 6 times, you just lose because you just give your opponent all their prize cards and you lose. This is a really interesting card with some really interesting payoff trade-offs. Like you got really high payoff, really high value, but also you literally just are losing the game in the process because you aren't giving up prizes. But it's really interesting. I think these cards are pretty solid because they can be used to target down your opponent's Pokemon. But yeah, they're just really cool. Also, oh, and expanded. I realize this is super broken expanded and probably should be banned. I usually don't talk about expanded, but let's pull up a card. I always forget the basic. Duskull is the basic. And from, there you go, Cosmic Eclipse. This thing, you discard cards from your hand, it doesn't really matter. There was a glitch that allowed you to essentially refill your hand infinitely, but I think it got patched a while ago. But anyways, it doesn't really matter. Pretty much, it lets you evolve this Pokemon turn one. You play it and you evolve it. Essentially, is what it does. You do discard cards in your hand. It's a weird card. It stopped playing. I don't know. It's all playing like Mad Partying with some weird stuff, but for discarding, but it also does let you evolve instantly. You can just evolve turn one, going first and expanded into Dusclops, and that's 5 damage counters. And it doesn't matter that you give me a prizes because you're just winning the game turn one, going first anyway. So yeah, Donk's back, lovely. But in expanded, so they banned Scoop Up Net, they banned yeah, I guess Scooping Net was the big one, but that was a really big one. And yeah, so Donk is back, lovely. Does it really matter? Whatever. But Expand is kind of, it is what it is. This will be in Live Expand as well, which, by the way, Live Expanded, as far as I'm aware, is not getting updated this calendar year, which I don't know. I don't mind too much about the not having the black and white X and Y cards because, quite frankly, most of them aren't very fun or very good. The good ones are like super broken, and the other ones just aren't very good at all. But in expanded because like power creep and certain things. But anyway, I broke it, expanded, whatever. It's expanded, right? But in standard, I think it's pretty cool. I'm really excited for these cards. They're probably my favorite of all the new cards revealed. I think Xerosic's plan or whatever is pretty cool, not super broken. And then, of course, the Dartrix Decidueyes are really cool as well. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed today's video, or I guess second video. I did an earlier one today, and I will be doing multiple videos every day for Twilight Masquerade. I think, well, we'll see how long I'm going to do that. But I hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you did, like, comment down below, all that good stuff. And as always, I'm excited to see you in the next video.